All right guys, drop shotting can be one of the most effective techniques in fishing. Doesn't matter if it's winter, spring, fall, or summer, the drop shot can get fish in the boat. What up guys, I'm Travis with Lucky Tackle Box, and today we're breaking down the basics of drop shotting. Really, there's two different ways to rig it. You can either nose hook it or wacky rig it. So I'm gonna show you the different ways and the different times to throw each so that you can tailor this technique to the waters that you're fishing. Now first I'm gonna break down the worm we're using. We're gonna be drop shotting with Lake Lunker's 5-inch finesse worm. And that's that little red guy right here. Now the reason red is great for the springtime is because bass really wanna feed up on crawdads. And crawdads this time of the year, a lot of times red. Now, the reason fish want to feed up on crawdads is because the more they eat of these hard-shelled crawdads, the better their eggs are. It actually makes their eggs stay together, makes them a little bit more firm, and therefore gives them a better chance of surviving. So remember that. In the springtime, you want to be throwing those red baits. So let's break down this technique now, starting with rigging. Okay, guys, with a setup on this, I tie a Palomar knot to a size 1 or 2 little drop shot hook. Then I give about 6 to 12 inches on a tag line, okay? Earlier, so in the winter time, all the way through kind of pre-spawn, which is about right now, I go with about a 6 to 8 inch leader. Then as we get more into that summertime, we have a little grass, get a little more soot on the bottom and stuff, then I'm gonna go more to a 12, even maybe an 18 inch tag line to get this bait a little bit more off the bottom, get a little bit more action out of it. So then I use, for the weight, I've got about a 1/8 ounce, all the way up to a 3/8 ounce. You want to keep that bait on the bottom, but you also want that nice natural fall. Lastly is how you rig this thing, okay? I've got it nose rigged right here. We're going to talk about the differences between these two, but then the other way is the wacky rig, just straight through the middle. It's like a cartoon way of rigging it. You're just right through the middle of that baby, and we'll talk about the advantages of that in just a minute. Okay, now with retrieval, let's first talk about the two different ways to rig this bait. The first is nose hooking, right? Just right in the front of that nose. This is kind of the most common way to do it. I like doing this, it gets the bait down faster, it streamlines everything. So when I'm making casts and I'm kind of working that bait relatively quick, and I'm not fishing particular targets, that's when I'm gonna go to the nose hook. Also, if I'm watching on my graph and I see fish below the boat, I'm actually gonna nose hook that bait and drop it straight down because it sinks faster that way. Now when I've got this bait nose hooked, I'm gonna cover water. So along a little point like this, I'm casting across it. I'm just gonna kind of slowly crawl this bait. So I've got the rod tip up. All I'm doing is kind of lifting that bait up, twitching it just so slightly. You really don't have to give this bait that much action because any movement you do is giving it actually a lot of action down there. So you don't really have to shake it a whole lot. You can just kind of pull it, just tiny little taps, and that's actually gonna get a lot more action than you realize. Anytime I come over any cover or structure, I feel something hard down there, I'll let that bait just sit for a couple seconds. Then I'll keep sliding it along. Like I said, this one is the one I'm covering water with. If I'm not fishing an exact spot, I'm gonna go with the nose hook. Oh, that feels like a puller. We got a tugger. Right up shallow. We made that long cast because now we're using that nose hook because I'm just kind of fan casting on this nice long point here. But a nice solid feeling fish here. Here we go. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come say hello to everyone. See that bend in that rod, guys? We got that. We might not have a very good hook set on there, so we want to make sure we got a lot of give in that rod. But then also, I already have the reel engaged, so when he pulls real hard, I back reel, because then eventually he's gonna tire out and we put him in the boat. This fish, can't tell. You wanna inspect your fish too to see if they are, if they're bed fish, okay? If they're tore up, they got little red fins and stuff like that, that means they're up on beds, and you wanna really slow down and look for some, or really try to fish for some more bed fish. You don't have to see the fish to bed fish. If you catch one, it's probably other ones, especially spotted bass and smallies. There's probably a few more in that area, that long point or whatnot. So always be paying attention to your surroundings. So with the wacky rig, kind of more of a slower mentality with this, okay? So that bait, right now I just cast out, it's sinking real slow. It's got both ends kind of wobbling on the way down. It's giving these fish some time to see it. Now, I'm not doing a lot of hopping with this thing. What I like to do when I'm using this one is I actually do little tiny drags, and then I'll just let that bait sit for a couple seconds. Let it drag just a little tiny bit. You just barely, if you tighten that line, that's enough, because what happens is those two little ends, they kind of pinch together and then they spread back apart. Anytime you tighten your line, that's what they do. They pinch together, then spread back apart. So you can really work things real slow. And so that's what you're gonna see me do with that rod tip down. I'm just gonna move it a foot or 2 feet, let it sit. Drag it another foot to 2 feet, let it sit. I'm gonna show you. That's why you want to use that red worm. They really hone into that. These two fish could have been bedding. He's a little beat up. They may have been bedding or getting close to moving up. And once again, using that wacky rig. So that's all tangled up. What I did is I tossed up into that dock, right? That bait slowly fluttered down. I worked it just a tiny bit, and bam, that was on there. There was another fish following it. So you always want to be staying visual on that too. I'm gonna go back around, make that same cast, maybe try to catch that other fish as well. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so rigging these baits two different ways allows you to fish a little bit more variety of locations, right? So first of all, that nose hook, that bait sinks real fast and really has a streamlined action to it. So I like fishing this when I'm not fishing specific targets. When I'm making long casts and slowly working that bait, just kind of making a little hops back to the boat. So perfect spots for that are, long tapering points, whether it's main lake points or as the spring warms up, these fish are gonna move back. Any kind of secondary points, I wanna make long casts along there, slowly work that bait until I find where these fish are keyed in on. Now, when I'm seeing fish on the graph below the boat, the nose rig drop shot is also good for that, because I can drop it down and it will sink very quickly, because you want to get that bait down there as quickly as possible so you can get it right on those fish. Now with the wacky rig style drop shot, remember everything's going to slow down. It's going to sink about half as fast as that nose hooked drop shot. So you want to cast it at specific targets. So if I'm fishing an island top, the high spot of an island top, cast it, let that bait sink right down on there and just slowly work it, so I know that that's the hot spot. I want to keep that bait right in that strike zone. That's a good technique for that. Also, if I'm fishing around docks, if I'm pitching along any kind of docks or anything like that, I want that slow fall, because those fish might be suspended around that dock, and that slow little fall can trigger the strike. But then once it sinks to the bottom, I can slowly work right along that dock. Once I'm away from that dock, then I cast up to the next target. So really you want to balance the two. Guys, there's times to throw that little nose rigged drop shot, and then there's times to throw that wacky rig. Experiment back and forth, because there can definitely be advantages to fishing one over the other throughout the entire year. Got bit. Guys, watch this. I'm gonna reel down and lift up, okay guys? You don't want to set that hook hard or you will pop free. And a lot of times people don't realize that. They set that hook and it pops and they go, oh, it must have been a small fish. It must not have had it all in its mouth. But no, if you set that hook too hard, you will pop that bait free. But guys, without a doubt, drop shotting can be some very effective fishing. And if you play around with the different types of presentation, whether it's wacky style or nose hooked, and then use the right color and the right baits, like this Lunker's, the Lake Lunker's 5-inch finesse worm, you will have some success no matter what time of the year. And like I said, that little red bait, springtime, you can't go wrong. I want to keep it simple for you guys, and hopefully this helps. If you enjoyed the video, throw us that thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section below. I make sure I always read through those and respond to as many as I can. Hit the subscribe button so you can keep getting updates on when we post new videos. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna try to catch a few more fish. I will see you on the next one.